sky right before my eyes, just like the sea moves me every time, calling to me, begging me. Reality reminds me I still want you. I want you. I still want you.
Hey hoes, I'm Crit,
And I'm Donato.
And I'm Vi.
and welcome to Island Fever, where grown-ass Pacific people talk about doing grown things. And today we are here at the beautiful Kaimana Beach Hotel, thanks to our sponsors Kaimana, the Ioni Foundation, H3RC, and Don't Drink the Water. American Samoa. Why shouldn't we drink the water in American Samoa?
I don't know why you shouldn't, but I gladly drink the water in American Samoa.
Oh, she has a reputation for that. No, I'm kidding. But no, that's a cafe out there. But anyway, we are gathered here today in the name of helping anyone, whether it's yourself or a loved one, dealing with substance abuse and addiction. And to help us with this conversation, we have the beautiful Maddy Sesepasara, aka Madeline Ashton.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Welcome to the Island Fever couch. Yes.
Hey,
I feel so
holler.
special.
Yo, Maddy, tell us how you got into the work. Like, so you're here with. Well, tell us what H3RC is first.
So Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction started in 2017 when Life Foundation and the Child Project merged, and it became this fabulous agency for the last 8 years. Wait, is it 10 years?
Coming
Or
up on
10
10.
years?
Next year will be 10
Coming
years.
up on
Yeah,
10.
next year will be 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I'm fortunate enough to work in one of the programs called Ku'ana Project, which is a transgender program, and it's run by transgender folks as well. And so I've been here for, gosh, I say 30 years.
No, we need a moment to just give you your flowers, y'all. If you are hearing about Maddy for the first time, she's known to many of us, like other queens, as Auntie Maddy. She is an icon. She's a legend amongst the queer trans-Pacifica community, and she's been leading this work for years.
You heard 30.
Legend. And what was the other word?
An icon.
is a new word for Kupuna folks.
No, but like
kidding.
I just want to say, like, I remember coming up, like there were a handful of girls, especially here in Hawaii, that really set the standard, I feel like, for living boldly and authentically as themselves. And so even before you and I had crossed paths officially, like I was always like, oh, Maddy, Shalani, and so many others that are on my heart and mind. And so
Thank
I'm
you.
just grateful to also share a couch with you. Like,
I'm just feeling very grateful for being here. So thank you for inviting me and having me here. to
Can I
speak.
ask you about those 30 years? Just out of curiosity, and there's no pressure.
When you say 30 years, what are you asking?
More so, you know, that's a really long time to not only service, but to also be a part of the community, right? To show up, to give energy, a lot of output. How did you take care of yourself throughout those 30 years? Or how are you taking care of yourself right now in these 30 years?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. So, yeah, I've been doing this work 30 plus years, and I was blessed. You know, I used to volunteer at this agency called Kulia Namamo. And
Yes.
so when they had opened up a position, that's when they had asked me if I wanted it. And so I jumped right in, you know. As someone that's actually been doing, you know, service for the community or being a peer mentor, you know, I've been doing this since I was in high school,
Yeah.
you know, being a peer mentor. So it was natural for when I was offered this position. And, you know, this is my community, you know, as trans folks, we're always looked down upon, we're shunned, we're not, it's like we're not seen. as human beings, you know. And so doing this work about 30 years, I would have to say the last 10 years, we've been able to thrive.
Yeah.
You know, we've been able to get policies changed. We've been able to make sure our community is seen, heard, and we're making sure that they have a voice, you know. So
Yes.
that's so important. So in Kuana, what it means is older sibling in care of a younger sibling, making sure that they reach that potential goal. And that's exactly what we do at Kuana. Because there's only 2.5 staff, we can do this work. So it's so important for us to get leaders, trans leaders in the community, or people that we feel that can actually reach their people, you know, because a lot of our trans sisters and brothers, they don't want to come into the agency. You know, they don't feel comfortable, but they will listen to their brothers and sisters that come and get the education, come get the tools that they need to make sure that their brothers and sisters are not being left out. And when they're ready, they come to our office, you know. So it's pretty amazing. So doing this work, and you know, it's a lot. And for us, you know, there's a bunch of leaders, trans leaders from this islands as well as the neighbor islands. We have our own chat room. And this is what we call sheroes, because as we are the one, as the females that are the ones that doing the work, you know, taking care, being there for the community. You know, as trans folks, we're always there for our community and for our family, friends, and loved ones, you know. We're always taking care of our community. And so it's so important that we have this space with our sisters and brothers that we can be ourselves, and we can make sure that we're checking in with each other and that we're taking care of each other, because we're taking care of the sheroes and heroes that's doing the work.
100%. It's a
you know?
collectivistic approach, right? And I think
Yes.
that speaks to Pacifica culture in general. Is typically part of how we care for ourselves is through connection to other people. And I think that that's unique to our experiences, especially when we talk about our marginalized communities, right? Is part of how we pour into us is leaning on those like you're speaking to yourself. So I say that to say is I see that and I felt that without spoken word, but I love that you were able to actually name it, because some people here might also be listening for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just hearing you also talk about Kuleana Mamo, when I was younger and living here actually in Waikiki, I also experienced a period of my life that I engaged in street-based sex work. And this was at a point where I couldn't even get a job at a McDonald's, y'all. That manager looked me up and down and was like, I'm sure as hell she denied my application because I'm trans. And so I explored street-based sex work. And I remember not even like just going out there on the streets and taking some of my other trans sisters with me, even though they weren't working, that folks like Kuleana Mamo were there in their trucks, like handing out supplies and food and just like making sure to keep an eye out for the girls anytime cars would come up. And there was a network, like even as you're saying, like there's a group chat, right? Where we signal and communicate to each other, we're safe, who's on what street, what cars to look out for, what type of violent instances have recently occurred and what to look out for, so that we can keep each other safe. So like the work that you're doing over the span of your career is just continuing that. And I am a product of that as well. So I just want to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, that made me cry.
Yo, Donato, I love that you talked about that, because I also remember an instance where you were talking about one of the homes that you lived in, and it was all the girls kind of looking out for each other, and it was a key as well at the same time, right?
Yeah. I mean, if people of that chapter know or have ever heard of the Kaheka house, like many a girl
Oh, you know about it, Maddy?
trick out of that house.
I've heard about it. I've heard about that
This
house.
was also before
about
the
that.
age of like Grindr, right? Like it was like Craigslist poppin' before Sesepasara hit and like, you know, dispersed the trans economy that made a millionaire of many of the girls. It disrupted all of that, but it was that network of safety. It was being able to communicate with each other. Of course, here, the unique thing about doing sex work here in Hawaii especially is that there's a huge presence of U.S. like militarism and imperialism. So many of the clients that we serviced are either Navy, Army, Marine. And so, you know, I also share that to say, like, we are at a place in just society where we're reckoning in social conversation. And we've seen, like, even at, like, right-wing spaces when, like, Grindr gets shut down because, like, many of them are on there and many of them are looking for the dolls. So, like, it's that shame around who it is that they are willing to be seen with openly and who they actually engage with behind closed doors and behind their screens. I no longer accept all of those messages, but at one time, Crit, I did.
It's the Bible, okay? No, but you know, I found that all the girls know where Kaneohe is because when I was like, I'm staying in Kaneohe, they're like, I know the military bases up there.
Yeah.
Getting back to addiction and substance abuse, you know, of our panel, you and I both share a history of having really struggled with addiction in the past,
Yeah.
right? So I guess I really want to start with, and Maddy, if you want to speak to clients that come and use your services, what really started it? What kind of sent you there?
For me,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like, first of all, I just want to reframe and say, like, addiction is still something that I struggle with to this day.
Okay.
Right? And I don't think that's ever going to go away, right? My addiction is a disease, and it's something that I continuously need to be mindful of and protective about, right? But when I tell the story of where it all started, I think it's been ingrained in me, and, like, for as long as I could remember, it wasn't until I had access to therapy to actually map out that I was someone that was prone to and built to get addicted to things.
Yo, I'm the same way. I hear you.
So, yeah, for folks to get deeper context, like, my mom is also someone that has struggled a lot with alcoholism. My dad did too at a younger age. So there were a lot of, like, this, like, level of exposure to addiction and certain violent instances. And so I think as I got older and I had, like, the free reign to decide what I put into my body and how I manage and cope with the stress of daily life, it was easy to reach for the bottle. It was easy to reach for the pill. It was easy to reach for the powder or anything else for me to, like, manage those feelings because I felt intensely about everything, right? And, you know, Donato today tends to say, like, part of that is my gift as an artist, that I get to feel and connect with people deeper because I have strong feelings. But if I don't manage that well, I can just as easily spiral and lose control, whatever that means, and be in really harmful situations that feed my addiction.
I think you highlighted, sis, and I appreciate you. The way you eloquently talk about everything, first of all, is beautiful. But you named something that I think a lot of people will connect to, is this idea that addiction or using substances starts as a solution, not a problem, right?
Yeah.
It is something to mend or to meet an unmet need, whether that's social, physical, psychological. And from what you're saying, a lot of it was battled with emotions, right? Like, this was my coping skill. And I don't know how many people know this, but the problem is not addiction in itself. The problem is the systems, we'll call that first. The second is also how people meet folks with support, right? So if you're struggling, and the first thing I want to do is send you somewhere or suggest that I'm sending you somewhere, what am I doing with them issues?
Yeah.
Baby, I'm saying pack it up and send it to somebody else.
Yeah, make it somebody else's problem.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as my addiction goes, I completely hear what you're saying because I've always had like a almost like obsessive personality. And, you know, it started out with video games, and then it was I don't know if drinking was it, but definitely gambling. I started out when I was in high school, and then sex became my greatest addiction when I was 18. So I was,
Yes.
I was
Felt.
yeah,
Also had an episode there.
Yeah,
for
gosh.
multiple seasons.
Yo, but that's probably my longest standing addiction, and then drugs became part of it because I used to be so self-righteous when it comes to drug use. I used to be like, oh, you know, like people would, I didn't even use so much as weed because I used to be like, oh, you know, I'm not really a pothead like that. I went from not having touched even weed to going straight to meth, and that was because it was actually at the end of working for MTV. I had such a shit experience there, just my talent being dismissed and just being really, just disappointed in a lot of ways things turned out. And so when things ended there, I hooked up with this random guy off Grindr, and he was like, "Do you want to try some of this?" And I was like, "Yeah, fuck it, why not?" So it wasn't even.
Yeah.
It was almost just like some escapism because I was just feeling down, and then from there, it was like I could get away with using every other weekend. You know, when I didn't have a couple of days where anyone had to see me, so it was kind of like I was functioning. You know, it was perceived that I was functioning
Yeah.
to everyone else around me, but like during those weekends, I was like decommissioned the whole time. It was wild.
Yeah, I too was a high functioning addict,
Yeah.
right? I relate to the fuck it's.
Yeah.
When you're feeling like everything is really heavy and you're just like saying to yourself, well, fuck it, whatever's in front of me, whatever comes, that place and those substances sometimes feel like the best thing and the medicine
Right.
in the
Right,
moment
right.
until everything just starts to like fall apart. And then you're
Yeah.
like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you both echoing this concept around that was how you coped, right? Like these substances, and I think that that's what a lot of people, there's a misconception within our community around how substances are used and then form into addiction.
Yeah.
One of those things is, well, it becomes like a hook of something that works. And after that, it's a wrap, right? Whether it's those tough feelings every time I feel minimized or dismissed or I don't feel seen, that's the fix.
Yeah.
And when you start to repeat that pattern, what happens? Well, baby, that's magic, right? We start to assume that that's the only thing that's going to help me through this battle with depression, this battle with grief, with self-worth, et cetera, et cetera. But why I say all of that is I can't wait for us to talk about the remedy to this being around connection. Because
Yes.
so much of what you guys are sharing, and I know partially your story is around not having that, and then when you found it, what happened? So
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you feel like using, or just addiction and substance abuse, it was a replacement for connection? Because for me, when I was out on the streets and all that, when I would get lit, it was like, oh, I feel the closest to this person I've ever felt in my life.
Oh
you
my
know?
gosh, I was falling in love every
no,
night with someone new. I don't know if that was healthy for me, right? And I don't know, it's weird because it's also like, I mean, if you know me, you know, when we connect, but like, I just wanted to connect deeper with everyone all the time.
Yeah.
And then it became overwhelming. Yeah.
Well, see, my thing was from the very start of it, I would have these extreme highs,
Yeah.
but then I'd always turn to psychosis, which is what eventually led me to crashing. Like, I'm talking, my ass was tackling police officers, getting my ass tasered in the street. I had 5 police units surrounding me.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you seen that movie Tangerine? Has anyone seen it?
no, but I think you just gave us a great preview.
Yeah, well, homegirl
Yeah.
who's in Tangerine was in the cells with me. So when I was in the cells,
In the South?
there was like, I almost got my ass, like someone was trying to steal my pants. And so I made friends with this girl who kind of held it down for me. So, I mean, but that was shit. I was just like, I'm not built for this life. Like, and that's when I had to turn things around.
You know, Maddy, I'm curious, as you know, we're hearing some of these common experiences in community. Do you see patterns that are relative to what Crit and Donato are saying out here?
Most definitely, Donato hit it right on the mark, as trans folks, especially working with our clients and myself as well, it's not easy to just get up and walk outside of the door and see what society is going to do or how they're going to react to you. That was for a lot of trans folks here in Hawaii, We're forced to do stuff that we don't want to do, but we have to do it if we want to live, if we want to put food on our table. And for me and for other trans folks, I was a caretaker for my babies, I had my sister's kids, her 3 kids, and she was doing whatever she was doing. My family all was on the, had a drug addiction, and so I had to do what I had to do, and it wasn't a proud moment, but it was, it was something that, I'm getting emotional. Because this is something our trans
real.
folks goes through, it's how society treats us. It's how our family treats us. A lot of our trans, especially my age, were thrown out at a young age.
Yeah.
So they have to survive. And what do you think they're doing? They're coping with how they can.
Absolutely.
And when drugs are brought to the table, they're going to take it because they want to feel something. Like you said, they want to feel alive. They want to feel something, And so that's what we did.
I'm really curious because someone on the other side of this conversation might be hearing it and might be thinking like, okay, if that life was so hard to live because you were living your authentic self, why not just accept the gender you were assigned at birth? What do you have to say to folks like that might be hearing or seeing your story and like them being like, because we deal with that all the time, but like I know someone might be listening and have that thought as well. Like, I'm curious what you would have to say to them.
Can I say fuck off?
Hell yes!
Yes.
That's exactly what I said. You know, why do we need to hide who we are? Why do we have to live by what the Western folks tell us, the colonizers told us? As people of Mahu, Fa'afafing, and we know our place with our people.
Yeah.
You know, that's why Hawaii is so different. That's why the Pacifica is so different, because we know where we belong with our people. It's the Western folks. It's when we go to the continent. It's when they come here and tell us our ways are wrong. But our people get it.
Yeah.
You know, it's. I just tell people, just be happy, be you. You know, I have some trans folks that have a hard time because their family don't accept them.
Yeah.
And you know, I have to tell them, don't worry about them. Do
Yeah.
you? You got your own family here. You know, as trans folks, we build our own family. We have our own houses here, and that's who we really rely on is our drag family to help us get through these, you know, these times, you know, these difficult times.
Yeah, so much healing happens in connection. And sometimes that connection doesn't always mean your birth family or the families we come from. Sometimes it's a co-creation of our chosen family, right? And I think all of us here can talk to the power of chosen family and how some of our chosen family members have been a part of changing our lives or saving our lives. So for any of our queer trans youth listening, you know, I think I want to invite you to this concept of chosen family through this forum, through this platform, through this podcast, through these conversations. It can feel isolating, it can feel lonely, and it can definitely feel like you're doing something wrong by just simply existing. But let us tell you about colonization, baby. The impact of colonization on our identities is, one, toxic as fuck, and two, not our realities. It does not belong to us.
Yes.
We'll leave that to the white folks, right? We'll leave that to them. That's their culture, not ours. But I say that to say is in the healing space, so many of my trans Pacifica clients, a lot of the work I do with them is helping them connect to that. Baby, you didn't come from this Western ideology that you were not supposed to exist. No. This was written for you already. There are people far beyond our years, our grandparents' years, who existed like you. And I say that because sometimes folks don't come from that. We've got to teach them. We've got to expose them. And I'm grateful in the therapy space. That's a lot of the work I'm doing.
And we have to remind them.
Ooh.
Right? Because I think part of it, like, I know for myself, like, I came into, anytime somebody asks me, oh, when did you transition? I've always known who I am.
Yeah.
Right? And when you ask me when did I transition, I know that you're asking when did you get the surgery? Whatever that means for whoever. Like, your body, your choice. But for me, it's like I've always known who I am. The harm that I experienced in this world had most to do with everybody else's opinion on who I should be and what I should become.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's that reminding that, like, we've always been here.
Right.
And baby, we're not going anywhere.
But that's the same thing. You know, part of the education I think needs to be out there is when we are pre-exposed to like this colonized way of thinking, well, we're vulnerable to also just fall in line with it and then internalize it as we are the problem. So the more disrupting too in our education, in our knowledge, and our storytelling, I think is powerful because quite literally this is like the gateway to how I see addiction in a clinical lens, right?
Yeah.
Is it's less about the problem. It's more about, one, like I said, those unmet needs. And if family and connection to people is missing, where the fuck else are we going to go? Survival. And survival doesn't always mean substances. Sometimes it's unhealthy relationships, right? Sometimes it's repeating toxic patterns that are getting us into fucked up situations. So I say that to just also echo this testament of like, you know, part of our education is being able to also name what belongs to us and what doesn't.
Yes.
So when we're talking about these fucked up situations that we have found ourselves in many a time, how did you start to work your way out of it? Like, what was the thing that really shifted you from being in the throes of addiction to being in the throes of recovery? Or maybe not throes, but, you know, what started their journey?
You know what? I think there isn't a singular answer to that, right? I think what was happening as someone that was very high functioning in my addiction, I was masking it so well in front of the people that were closest to me. I already understood what were my regular patterns and routines of behavior and doing my best to maintain that facade, right? One example is I would typically order lunch to my office. And I would continue that pattern. And even though I was on stimulants that suppressed my appetite, I wasn't hungry, but I was still ordering food, and it would come and I'd pretend that I ate the food.
Yo, I've done this so many fucking times, yo.
And that was just one of the things. And like even small things, like I started to lie about. Like I would come home late, or meet someone late after going to use, and they'd be like, "Oh, where'd you just come from?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I was just hanging out with so and so." Like what would seem like a harmless lie. Right? And then they would have a conversation and be like, "Oh, yeah, because I heard you were just hanging out with Nato." And they'd be like, "Girl, no, what? I haven't seen her since like a week ago."
Caught
Oh,
up.
but I haven't seen her in a week ago, too. Like, where's she been? And then the lies started to show, right? The facade started to break. People were seeing through the cracks of it. And then they started having conversations with each other. And then I was feeling attacked from all sides.
Wait, you
right?
got an intervention style, right?
I basically got an intervention style when I was already scheduled to go to treatment the day after.
Yeah.
And so what happened was people that were leaning in, to show their love and support for me. My dear sister, she planned this dinner. That was this nightmare dinner. Now, imagine having an intervention the night before you are already sending yourself to rehab. Like, I did everything to make sure I got my ass into rehab. But the night before I'm going, the only fucking thing I want to do is just pack my shit, clean it up, clean out all the drugs, and then come back and, like, continue whatever this is going to be. My sister invites all of my closest friends. My boss, my executive leadership team, and in nonprofit, especially trans women leading a nonprofit, many of us are very close, right? And so my boss was even at this thing, and I had a bone to pick with every motherfucking bitch that showed up. And it wasn't cute. There was a moment where I was just really triggered, and so trigger warning. And it had a lot to do with, one, I had already made plans to make sure I got to the airport without asking any of my closest people who were leaning in to figure out how they could help. And my sister came up to me and she goes, "I will be back in the morning at 5 a.m. to take you to the airport." And I was like, "But I already have it figured out." And she goes, "No, but I will be here at 5. And I'm getting emotional about this because I ended up saying to her, I was like, "What, do you think I'm not going to go to the airport? Like, why are you pressing this?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, you don't trust me. You don't trust me that I'm going to say what I said I'm going to do." Of course, I'd already proven I'm a liar. Yeah. But in the moment, I felt my spirit crumble. Yeah. I had to separate myself from everyone in the room, and I went upstairs to take a shower after I did a little bit more drugs. And I broke down and I had this ugly cry. The only thought that I was holding on to was, how am I just gonna end my life right now? Yeah. And one of my dearest trans sisters, I knew she saw what was happening, and she understands the patterns of addiction and what I was going through. She came into the bathroom and she applied the medicine to make me feel better and feel seen. She cracked jokes. She reminded me of she goes, "Sis, you're so beautiful. Stop crying." Yeah. She's telling me some of our inside jokes, and she made me feel better. And then she held my hand. She was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I am now," because I felt so seen.
Yeah. Oh, it's so powerful.
Woo!
Yeah.
And then I went downstairs, told everybody, "Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Thank you so much for coming. This is what you need to work on. This is what you need to work on. And I'll see you when I get back, or I'll see you there."
Everyone got
there was
red
so
for
much
Phil.
anger. There was so much anger. But I worked through that in therapy.
Yeah, and I will say too, sis, your story is so beautiful because it reflects such a, I don't want to normalize it in a way that it minimizes your unique experiences, but I do want to normalize the idea of there's so much to carry and how much responsibility we feel, right, when we are struggling, whether it's with addiction or not. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that family, friends, chosen family is aware of that in the ways that help them bring you closer, right? Yeah. So there's a fine line between helping someone and asking someone to stop, especially when we talk about addiction and substances. Mm-hmm. And that looks different for every person, right? Yeah. Maybe for you in this way, help meant help me pack my shit. Yeah. For somebody else, help might be actually plan out every next step and get me there. Mm-hmm. But to make the assumption that you know what someone needs also robs them the opportunity of autonomy. Yeah. And regardless if you're suffering with addiction, it is so important that you still have that. Yeah. Because part of this lies in, right, the challenge of not feeling like you are seen, heard, or felt, or validated in your experience.
Yeah. No, and I just want to echo on that. When you've hit rock bottom and you've lost it all, whether it's relationship, your job,
Yep.
your housing, right? And the only thing left is your autonomy, because we see it all the time, right? When we see someone in their suffering, everybody that is not in that place will have something to say of like,
something to say. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm like, you don't understand it until you're there.
Yeah.
And so I found a lot of healing and connection with people with similar stories and similar struggles to just easily sift through the bullshit to get to the truth.
Right.
I just want to say, when I was talking about chosen family, that was such a big part for me, right? Because I'm living out here. Well, I was living in LA at the time, far from my family. And so, yeah, I mean, rock bottom for me was getting locked up, right? I'm this Fulbright scholar. I've got a law degree. I've got a freaking master's in education from Fulbright. Like, it's just wild that I'm now in the cell for using meth, you know, of all things, right? And so I came out of there and I was like, I have to turn my life around, because if I don't, I could die. I could get shot in the street, you know, by police or whatever, because I've had my ass tasered now. I could go to prison, or I could get sent home, you know, like any of those things or I could lose my mind. That's the other fucking thing, right? And so I just so happened to walk past this cafe that had a sign saying, oh, crepes. Like, it was like banana crepes. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, let me go in. And when I sat down, I saw, I don't say Margaret Cho's name because she's very open about being an AA. She was sitting at the table with a group of people, and they all had books in front of them. So I thought it was a movie script. I thought they were doing a reading. I was like, oh, this is some Hollywood shit. And then as the meeting started, I realized, oh, shit, this is an AA meeting. And I just sat there and I was like, oh, fuck, is this something that meant to happen I was supposed to walk in on?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the woman who was leading the meeting, she was a black trans woman. And when I saw her, I was like, yo, because I still wasn't out yet, right? And I think that was a huge part of my addiction, was I still hadn't come to terms with who I was. And there was still a lot of self-hate within me. And so when I saw her, I was like, I want what she has, you know, because she looked like she was happy and she was just so rambunctious and full of life. So I asked her to be my sponsor. And I don't want to discourage anyone from going to AA, but that wasn't necessarily the place for my recovery.
Sure.
But I found other ways, and a big part of that was chosen family.
It's a safe space, baby.
It
We
is a
cry on
safe
this podcast.
And I just sort of say, you know, Donato, you've been a big part of that, you know. And I just thank you for that. So,
I know.
Oh, I
know.
love that.
I know you know we know.
Hell yeah.
Even through the unspoken.
Yeah.
I see you.
I see you too.
And I love you.
I love you.
Oh.
Yo.
You remind us, Crit, so much of your vulnerability reminds us of how, one, support looks different for every person, but also, you know, thinking about something meaningful happens in your journey, and that's where the pivot happens. It isn't always necessarily treatment, rehab, this amazing sponsor. No shade to your sponsor, but from what you're saying to me, it was that meaningful impact where you hit rock bottom. Rock bottom is not the same for every person. And I say that because I think there's this misconception that rock bottom looks shitty. Some people's rock bottom, baby, look like Hollywood. You would be surprised how much people are suffering behind this glory, right? So hearing you talk about that meaningful, damn, look at me. This is not who I am. Sometimes it takes shit like that for people to find it. So if you are searching for that, if you're struggling with it, I encourage you to lean on people. Don't tell your story by yourself, because you'd be surprised how much we can support you or someone else can.
So getting back to H3RC,
Yeah, man.
what are some of the supports?
I'm sure you've seen, you know, so many people walk through your doors looking for that support, right? So
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear, like, what services or programs can people access? And maybe even deeper, what might be some signs that other folks can look out for that signal, maybe their cultural, like, unique differences that signal that someone might need a certain level of kindness and love and support and a lean in?
That was
I
a
know
lot.
that was a big one.
That's a lot.
In short,
Can you go back? What was the first part? I was like, wait. So Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center, we do offer services for folks that are wanting to get off of drugs or needing a counselor. When it comes to our trans community, because that's really my focus, is really working with the trans folks, is really just making sure that that we're able to just listen to them when they're because we know as trans folks when our sisters or brothers are going through something. So just being there and just listening and just letting them know their options, and when they're ready, we're here for you, sis. We're here for you, brother. No judgments here, and that's what it is making sure that when they come into your office, that they feel the love and that they're not going to be judged.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when people who are dealing with substance use and addiction, they're already looked down upon, or that, oh my gosh, they're one of those, And so making sure that you're inviting them, and I have to say H3RC is very good at making sure anyone walks through that door is feeling loved or invited,
Yeah.
And so again, back to my trans folks, again, just making sure we're able to talk to them when they're ready, when they get on the wagon and then they fall off, letting them know it's okay, when we're going to get back on the wagon, it's like letting them know that even if they fall, that it's okay.
Yeah.
When you're ready, let's do it again, Let us know, sis, we're here, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
So that way they feel, oh, I can come back to this agency. I
Yeah.
can come back to my sisters.
And I can be truthful every time, and
I can
every
be
step
truthful.
of the way.
And that's what, and having these truthful conversations with our sisters too. That girl, we went through this 67 times. What now? How? You gotta help me help you. What we gotta do?
And it's
putting
that
it back
comedy
on
too
them.
that we bring just as Pacifica, Mahu,
and that's just how it is. And when they're able to really tap into, like you said, you went and got counseling, you saw a therapist. When they're able to finally break down those walls and why they're doing all of this,
Yeah.
then they're able to start living and start, and the healing really begins.
Yeah.
A lot of times, like I said earlier, trans folks are being kicked out of their homes, and a lot of them, they love their family. As Pacifica trans folks, we are so connected to our family, and so family is everything. And when we lose that,
Yep.
we really lose ourselves, and we're trying to find ourselves again,
Maddy, I just want to talk about, so you talk about people not feeling any shame and coming back, right? Because that's such a big part of our journeys, is the shame that we carry.
Yeah.
If it's being gay or trans or queer or being an addict on top of that, right? Can you speak to the idea of harm reduction? Because that was very new for me. Just in the last 5 or so years, I came across that for the first time.
So harm reduction is more about just providing the tools so that way they can be making sure they're making healthier choices when it comes to using substance use. Like we have a syringe exchange program. We don't want them to using the dirty needles or sharing needles.
Yep.
So we have a program that you can exchange those needles and get new ones, so that way you're not harming yourself or others. Or we kind of tell people, if you only have that one needle, make sure you go first before the next person. So that's harm reduction. Providing them the tools. And we're not telling them, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. That's not our job. Our job is to make sure we're providing them with the tools to live a safe, healthier lifestyle. As to where sobriety is more, they're going through a program, they're doing this, they're doing that, to not do drugs, So harm reduction and sobriety.
It's very
is
black and white,
two-
right?
Yeah. Or it's just I know for me, when I was in active addiction and, considering harm reduction as well, right? There were some adjustments or things that I was making for my daily life, like always making sure that I had on makeup, to cover the scars that was coming up through my addiction, right? People didn't know that, but that was one way too. Or having a buddy system or a friend that knew everywhere I was going and what I was doing, that in case I overdosed, right, that at least one person would know where to find me or who I was with, right? Because harm reduction tells us that at the end of the day, people, because of our autonomy, are going to do what they want to do. even if it's not the best choice for them, right? In that moment. And so what are some ways we can reduce the harm that we could potentially do?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And there's so many other layers to that I can talk about, but those were just some of the things that were coming up. Or keeping like,
Yeah.
I don't know, an extra pair of clothes and an extra pair of like safety kits and condoms and things. And even when I would go to like sex parties and stuff, I would be the girl giving out condoms to make sure like, oh, okay, well, if you're not going to wear it, it's not going to be with me. Like,
yeah.
you know,
Harm reduction.
harm reduction.
I
is
mean, from a
sexy.
Okay.
clinical stance, when you think about harm reduction, at least my approach is heavily invested in this idea of I'm going to support people where they are, not where I wish they was.
I love that.
I think that's also so important for people to hear. Is again, we talk about how important autonomy is in all things, but especially in addiction.
Yeah.
So if you have your own idea of what harm reduction looks like, well, baby, you're also kind of enabling certain behaviors, right? So it's so important that we give people that space of returning constantly, because
Yeah.
we miss an opportunity to keep people alive when we have these set expectations of like, you only get the 3 chances, and after the 3, then that's it. Well, guess what? You just increase the idea of someone's life not being worth more than 3, right? Just to put into perspective, as far as any healers, any practitioners in the field that are listening to this dialogue, I really want to hone in on this idea of harm reduction being led by the person where they're at,
Yeah.
not what the fuck you thought, not what you've been trained or what you read about, because people are constantly changing. And again, we rob opportunities to keep people alive if we're making that choice for them.
For them.
I'm curious, Maddy, at H3RC, like we talked about, you know, a lot of the issues that we have come from, let's say, white people, right? With H3RC, I know there's a lot of Hawaiian and Pacifica folk there. Can you speak to how that impacts the services and the clients who come through?
I think when you see our brown people in these places, it makes it a lot comfortable for our brown folks to come and seek the services. When I saw a trans girl at the clinic, that made me feel comfortable. Like, oh, I can go to talk to this sister.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when you see your own people in this agency, then you know you're going to be treated well. You're going to get the service that the great service that you deserve. You know, and yeah, you're right. I feel so blessed to work with a lot of Pacifica folks at our agency, because in the beginning there was a lot of white folks that were doing the work. You know, and you know it was hard because harm reduction wasn't a thing. It was more sobriety. You know, trying to change their way of thinking, and you need to do this way. Yeah. So yeah.
So speaking of harm reduction, I know H3RC also offers PrEP. So can you speak to, and all the services are free too, right?
Oh yeah, so at Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center, we have a clinic that also offers free HIV testing as well as counseling. We also provide STD screening. If anyone has an STD and wants some services, we can definitely help them. We do have insurance. The only one I think we don't cover is TRICARE is the
Okay.
only one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we talk about STIs for a second?
Yeah. Yeah.
What? I mean, I've run the gamut. I cannot tell you the number of times I've had chlamydia or like
Okay.
gonorrhea. Oof.
Yeah, what?
That's when it's-
So part
Same.
of my and no tea, no shade, no pink lemonade. I think that's why we have these conversations. What do you think contributed to your increase in contracting an STI so many times?
Oh, absolutely in my addiction. Because when when I was out here using, my thirst was insatiable. So I was out in the streets
relate to
hopping
that.
from place to place. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, oof,
And
I-
everybody could get it.
no,
Risky
everybody
behavior.
did get it. No, and
And the risky
Yep.
behavior,
Yeah.
like you're no longer thinking about being safe, or like
Right.
that guard starts to get lower and lower sometimes, or it goes up and down. And like when you're fixated on either getting the fix and feeling through sex to fill your cup, and there's no condoms available, and then you're like thinking like, okay, well, it's fine, maybe this one off or whatever, and then the cycle continues.
oh, it's not even about
Almost like
most men. Well, let me not generalize, but a lot of gay men, especially in LA, they're trying to do it raw. So
Yeah.
condoms is actually not preferred. So that's even heightening the risk of catching whatever it is that's out there, right? But when I tell you, oh gosh, this is one little story I'm gonna say. Like I even had like warts. Like I've gotten and like it cleared out of my system and everything. But I remember going to, this is when I was living in Sydney.
Yeah.
I went to Bondi Beach and there was this doctor. He was good looking too. He had to zap the warts from, any other time I would have been happy for him to spread my cheeks. But this was the one time I was like, yo, this hot doctor is fucking zapping bumps off my hole right now. Like there was another load that I thought, shit, this is my life right now. Like what the fuck?
Yeah. No.
Can you top that?
Can you top that? It's crazy.
I'm trying to. Actually, I could have like gonorrhea of the throat or of the rectum and like.
Looking
So you
straight
can
at
remember
me.
that.
She looked me straight in my eyes. She said, gonorrhea
in
of
the
the rectum.
rectum. Which
Well,
is
period.
why, like, education and
Yeah.
conversations like these need to be normalized, right? They're not always these grand, scary, let me sit down and talk to you kind of vibe. And I hope for any parents or even young adults who don't know how to have these conversations that you can reference some of their conversation. Maybe not the other parts that you heard, but I mean, I think that's safe to say. Like, that's why organizations like H3RC are so important, because sometimes we may not have access, but when you know, whether it's through Island Fever or not, now you have a starting point for the time in your life where you're at the fine-ass doctor's office and you're concerned about your rectum. You can remember that there are spaces that exist with people like you in mind.
Yes.
Damn, Maddy clutched her pearls for a second.
Yeah.
Do y'all have fine-ass doctors at H3RC or no?
Hello. Every
yeah,
provider.
we do. We have beautiful and handsome providers.
Well,
so
would you
come
look
on
at
down.
that? Come on
Dr.
down.
Rick and Dr. Wang.
As you said before, Donato, like it's a daily choice and a daily effort to maintain this healing journey we're on, I should say. And so I just wanted to say what some advice that you have for anybody who's struggling out there.
The piece of advice that I want to give to someone out there that might be looking to support someone that is going through active addiction is try to meet them where they are at. Don't try to decide for them. Be able to listen intently without shame. The truth is they will fall over and over, and it's important that they know that you are a safe place that they can come back to. Because that's truly what saved my life.
I would say consistency means more than you know. Consistency helps save lives. I will also remind people that help and support looks different. I know I've said that many, many times, but I think we tend to make assumptions about what people need, and you would be surprised if you give them the opportunity to name that. The other thing I want to say is support is very different than rescuing.
Come home, Don't worry about what goes on out there, the loud noise, We are here to help you. We are here to love you, and we are here to support you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Crit. Do you have any final?
Yeah, I guess for me, it's just like the only thing that's going to set you free is being really honest with yourself, and I think in order to do that, you got to look within, you got to really look at yourself and be brutally honest about what you see and what's going on, and sometimes you need some help with that. And I recommend therapy. We got our therapists here, and that's a big part of why
You
Therapy
got a
do
wait
this
list, but I
podcast.
know a lot of people. Call me.
Yes.
she's booked and busy, but that's why we really encourage you to go to services like H3RC. Go check in with Maddy. I think the sooner you can talk to someone, you can start unpacking what's going on, and you can really, be honest again with what's going on. That's the sooner you'll be able to really be free from what it is you're holding on to. So that's all I got.
Because healing happens in connection.
Yes.
Quite
Amen.
literally. I'm so proud of y'all. I just wanted to say that before we close out. Thank you for letting us bear testimony to your journeys. It's an honor. But yeah, in case nobody told them today in the comments, I'm proud of y'all.
Thank
Love
you.
you, Ma.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, hoes.